All right, so young people there testifying about what looks like a pretty traumatic event. Let's welcome in our guests for this hour. Joining us, law enforcement and trial consultant Sonia Soller, along with child attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan. Hey, great to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on the show. And Sonia, I'll start with you. You know, what particularly hits me about this case, it sounds like this was a fun evening planned. Young people going to go to the movies with their parents, have a good time. It was a little bit of a curveball. Some decisions were made, and tragedy ensued. Love to get your thoughts on this one. Sonny?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't know that you said my name. Good morning, and thank you for having me, and great to be with both of you. So I think you're absolutely right. There was some fun times, and then a decision was made, and consequences resulted from those decisions that should not have been made. I think this case really shows that parents have got to be more vigilant and more focused on the things that they allow their children to do. There may have been a time when, you know, you could take the car out on a road with the child that was younger than the age of, you know, to help them begin driving. But that's not today, and you cannot allow them to ride in the car with other children when they're not legally supposed to. You can't even do that when they first get their driver's license. They're not supposed to have friends and young people underage in the car driving with them. So these are severe consequences. And I was reading that this father has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So, you know, this case has evolved into a lot of different things. My mother had pancreatic cancer. She is no longer with me. So this case is going to linger without, I think, any consequences based on his treatment as well, you know, his health treatment in relation to all of this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly will play a role. And Mackenzie, when I think about this case, you know, it's one of those decisions that parents can make. You know, you have a 15-year-old, I have a 15-year-old who literally just got his permit. And, you know, you have to make these decisions, you know, how far do you let them go? How far do you want to be with them when they're doing certain things? It sounds like in this particular instance, he made a quick decision. And permission is super important here. As you heard, there were questions about permission. Also on cross, you heard him say, look, did you tell them at one point that he did not have permission? Talk to me about permission in this case and how important it is. If he didn't have permission, let's say the young person who was driving the car, what difference would that have made in the case?
Yeah, that's huge to the father's culpability. And you do see that the son here was tried as a juvenile, is in juvenile holding, thus faces a much shorter stint in detention than his father. I was not aware of the pancreatic cancer, but I was thinking about the length of the sentence that the dad faces, that 37 years, even on the minimum end for somebody who's 69 years old, could have been a life sentence in and of itself, but certainly now that there's this illness in play, and it does come down to that tiny little piece of did you sign off on this? And last hour, Ted Rollins was talking about the Crumbly case out of Michigan, I believe. Those parents who were held responsible for the shooting that their son had committed and not locking up the gun. And I think, you know, to echo Sonny's point, that this is all about incentivizing watching your children, being extra, extra careful when things that can take a life, like in that case, guns here, driving without a permit even, potentially. I believe that is the case here, that there was no legal basis for the son to be driving without anyone else in the car over 21. That those cases, you have to be super, super careful, and potentially incentivizing doing something like reporting if someone takes the car without permission, even if it is your child.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And again, you compared it to the Crumbly case, so did Ted. And, you know, that case, it was a gun. But in many ways, people will say, putting a child behind the wheel of a car is like putting a dangerous weapon in his hand, right? Because look what happened in this particular case. So the similarities are certainly there. All right, ladies, stand by. We're going to take a break here, folks. Coming up next, an eyewitness takes the stand and tells the court what he saw the day of the crash and how fast the defendant's son was going in that white Impala.
Did you hear any gunning of an engine, anything that drew your attention first?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the engine was, they were accelerating really fast.
Did you guesstimate a speed on them?
Over 70.
The world's attention is focused on what we are doing here.
He claimed dying was not a crime, but prosecutors thought it was.
This is a murder trial. Jack Kevorkian killed by injecting him with drugs.
Dr. Kevorkian has never in life intended anybody to commit suicide.
He was the only person that could help.
Michigan versus Dr. Jack Kevorkian. The trials of Dr. Death, weekdays at 2 Eastern on Court TV, Legendary Trials.
Back now to Florida, where a father is on trial for a fatal car crash caused by his son. Richard Ferguson is being charged with 4 counts of manslaughter after his 15-year-old son crashed into a car, killing 4 people. Prosecutors say Ferguson allowed his son to drive without a license, but Ferguson says he never gave him permission. Let's go back into court where the jury is hearing from an eyewitness of that deadly crash.
Mr. Negron, will you state and spell your first and last name for Madam Court Reporter?
Giovany.
And last name?
Negron.
And Mr. Negron, do you recall an incident on September 3rd, 2023?
I do.
Where were you that afternoon?
I was riding my bicycle on,
Was it near a park?
yes.
Do you remember the name of that park?
I think it's called Deerwood Community Park.
Okay. Is it near the intersection of Laurel Avenue and San Miguel?
Yes.
Do you live in that neighborhood?
Not that neighborhood, but a little bit down the road.
Okay. And when you were at that park, what did you see that did anything draw your attention at the park itself?
There was a bunch of people, but the particular where there was a car, a white Malibu. There was a bunch of juveniles sitting on the trunk of the car.
Okay. So when you saw them, were they just hanging out at the park? What were they doing?
Yeah, they were hanging out, like sitting on the trunk of the car.
At some point, did the juveniles leave the park?
They did after, they went the direction that I was going.
Okay. And were you on your bike?
Correct.
And they were in the white Malibu?
Correct.
What do you remember around the corner of Laurel Avenue and San Miguel? Did you hear anything first?
First, there was a lot of talking along the lines of stop or I'm going to get you or something along those lines. When I was riding the bicycle, I wasn't sure if they were talking to me or talking among themselves. And then just crash that happened right in front of me.
Okay. Did you hear any gunning of an engine, anything that drew your attention first?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the engine was, they were accelerating really fast.
Was that the engine of the white Malibu?
Yes.
Where the juveniles were hanging outside of?
Yes.
Looking at them driving down that road, did you guesstimate a speed on them?
Over 70.
Okay. Did you hear the crash?
Yes.
Did you see the crash?
I did. Yeah.
To which car did you go, if you went to a car after the crash?
To the Honda.
To the other car?
Yes.
Did you ever go to the white vehicle?
No.
Did you recently, states approaching defense with what's been marked as State's Exhibit A? Did you have a chance, may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Did you have a chance to view what's on State's Exhibit A prior to taking a seat at the witness?
Yes.
And you recognize it?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate surveillance video of the crash that day?
Yes.
Are you also in this video?
I didn't see me in there, but I didn't see long enough, but
Okay.
yeah.
It's a fair and accurate representation of the crash at San Miguel and Laurel that day?
It is.
State would move State's Exhibit A and evidence in States 1, permission to publish, Your Honor.
Come on up.
Defense will object and reaffirm previous objection.
Go ahead and stop.
No further questions.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. The witness step down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is Mr. Negron excused from subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring back in law enforcement and trial consultant Sonny Slaughter, as well as trial attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan. And Mackenzie, I'll start with you. I mean, I'm speechless after watching that video. The minute I heard, before you even see the car, you can hear the sound of the engine, and you sort of begin to prepare yourself for what's coming. And even that doesn't prepare you for what you're about to see. I mean, that video's devastating.
Yeah, and I think this witness really underscores the gravity, as Angel Hernandez did, the father or grandfather who now has lost his wife and 3 grandchildren, that a lot of this testimony is really showing how reckless the choices made here were, and that this was not, say, you know, I let my son drive without me because he was learning and he made a mistake, that this really was a child who a parent potentially should have known was reckless behind the wheel, was not making informed choices, and this is what the result was. And obviously we know that lives were lost, the fallout was huge, really underscoring that this is not an accidental case that maybe jurors could relate to, you know, mea culpa, I gave my son the keys and he hit a stop sign, something like that. This is really a distinctive, different case.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Sonny, one of the things I wanted to talk about was to compare and contrast the Crumbley case. One of the big issues there was the foreseeability of the whole thing. The idea was by buying him the gun and putting it in a place where it wasn't locked up and he could get to it, considering the problems that he had, made it foreseeable something like that could happen. Does that exist in this case?
Yes, I think it does. When you look at the video, and when children take driving classes, when they learn to when they get their license, when they go through all of the processes, they are taught, and there's great explanation. And even though these kids should already know this, that this is a car can be used as a weapon. It is very serious to be on the road, to be engaging with other cars, and to watch your speed, which is why we have speed limits, speed signs, and to take care. It's also the other reason why they don't allow other young people to ride with new drivers and very young drivers, because of the excitement and the ability to change the narrative in context and contemplation for consequences when you're in the car with your friends and you're having a loud music on. All of these things play a factor. This was a devastating crash, and children have to take this seriously along with their parents.
Yeah, and Mackenzie, here, the act was explicitly prohibited by law. You're not supposed to allow a 15-year-old to drive, right? One of the big issues in the Crumbley case was that they did buy him a gun, but it wasn't his. Apparently, it was supposed to be kept away. It was kept away, but it wasn't locked away. So I ask you in this case, let's say these guys or these young people had decided they were going to go for a joyride. The father leaves, and many people do, they leave their keys on a hook in the kitchen or by the door. And the young boys come downstairs and they get it and they take the car and go for a ride. Is that the same type of situation where you're not, you know, safeguarding the keys enough to keep it away from young people who might make this type of decision? How much of a difference would it have made if there was no permission and the kids took keys, but the keys were readily available?
Yeah, I think that the one thing that does distinguish the gun case and this case, even if we're using the hypothetical that keys were left out and accessible, you could still have reached the same conclusion. But the distinction that I see with guns is that they are only used to injure or take life. A car, while it absolutely can be a weapon, and children should be educated that is a risk, certainly when learning to drive and of that age, it's not the only outcome that comes with accessing keys to a car. While it was certainly very reckless in this case and thus was foreseeable that way, it's not that by taking the keys in a case where a child is taking the car, that they almost certainly are seeking the outcome of injuring or taking life. So that's the distinction with the car. I do think here, because you have juxtaposing this witness with multiple witnesses who are in the car who heard the dad say, buckle up and come back safe, that, it's not a leaving the keys situation. That is at the very best a tacit approval. You don't say buckle up just to get to the bottom of the driveway. Certainly not if your son is driving this recklessly elsewhere.
Yeah, and the young guys, they've come across very credible in that sense for sure. All right, ladies, stand by. We're going to take a break. Coming up next, we're going to hear from a witness who lived near the scene of that deadly crash and ran for help.
I ran out the front side of my house first because I couldn't locate my husband, and I ran around the side and immediately saw why I heard that bang.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We're bringing you the trial of a Florida father facing 4 counts of manslaughter for a deadly crash caused by his 15-year-old son. Prosecutors say 69-year-old Richard Ferguson allowed the unlicensed teen to drive, leading to a deadly crash. Let's head back into court now for more testimony. Now on the stand, a woman who lived near the crash. She's facing direct examination by the prosecution.
On September 3rd, 2023, that early morning afternoon, what were you doing?
I had just actually stepped out of the shower and had a break from caring for my grandson that day, and had just woken up from a nap and took a shower, basically.
Did something draw your attention outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Overall.
You can answer.
Yes.
What drew your attention?
I heard the loudest bang that I've ever heard in my life living on that area.
When you came outside, what did you initially see?
I ran out the front side of my house first because I couldn't locate my husband, and I ran around the side and immediately saw why I heard that bang.
What did you see?
I saw a white sedan, 4-door, that had come into my neighbor's yard closest to my house. So it'd be the first car that I would run upon.
Okay. Was there another vehicle located at that location as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Which car did you approach first?
Objection, Ralph.
Which car did you approach first?
I approached the car that had the 4 teenagers in it.
Okay. And did you identify who the driver was?
I could tell that he was the driver because he was rolling out of the driver's seat.
Okay. Did you stand with the juvenile that was located, that had rolled out of the driver's seat?
I stayed with all 4 juveniles and tried to keep them at the scene.
Okay. When you were standing with the juvenile at some point, did a man identifying himself as his father arrive?
They identified themselves as his parents. It was father and mother.
Okay. Were you within earshot of the father speaking with the juvenile who was identified as the driver?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall what the father said to the juvenile?
Objection, closer.
Defendant's statement.
Overruled.
Did you recall what the father said to the juvenile?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said, "You gone and done this. You gone and done this now, boy. You were supposed to bring your friend down by Discovery Middle so he could change his clothes, and you had no business being up there by those basketball courts with these 2 additional friends.
Okay, so he had said you were supposed to take your friend to Discovery Middle School, by Discovery Middle School and change?
That's what he said.
Okay. Did at any time the father accuse his son of taking the vehicle without permission or stealing the vehicle?
No, ma'am.
When he arrived on scene, did he tell his son, you can't seem to keep yourself out of trouble?
Yes, indeed.
And at no time did he say anything about the car being stolen or taken without permission, correct?
Never mentioned.
No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Just briefly, this went on. Did the father seem distraught?
No.
He did not seem distraught at talking to his child about being in a car accident.
He never even bent down to check his son, who had what I thought from my nursing experience, a possible fracture to his leg. He stood away from his son for quite a time, chastising.
The question is, you thought the father of this child wasn't checking for his health, saying he was in trouble, and your statement is one that he was cold to his own child?
He was, compared to, I don't know if it's his wife, but the child's mother was screaming, oh my baby, and he seemed to be the more stern of the 2, like, what have you gone and done this time, boy?
The mother was screaming and taking care of the child, correct?
He wasn't screaming.
This is the mother.
The mother was screaming. All she was screaming was, my baby. That's all I ever heard his mother scream, looking at the children who were being worked on. And I told her, don't worry about your baby. You should be praying for those babies. As her son actually was laying on the ground, asking and pleading and begging.
I have no further questions.
Are you right?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Torres, step down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is she excused from subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Torres.
All right, let's welcome back in our guest, law enforcement and trial consultant Sonny Slaughter, along with trial attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan. And Sonny, I'll start with you. This pretty devastating testimony for the defense on a lot of levels. I'd love to get your thoughts about it.
Game changer testimony, eyewitness, firsthand witness, on the scene witness, heard it for herself. This is not anything that she's repeating that she did not hear. And it says a lot about what was happening, that the father was well aware, and the father, according to this testimony, actually allowed this son to take the vehicle, told him where he could go, knew that he shouldn't be there, and as a result, this was happening.
Yeah, and you know, Mackenzie, I think it may even go a step further than that. From what I'm hearing about what he was saying to his son, he's almost saying, like, what have you gone and done now, boy, right? Like, this is a child who has messed up before and maybe has shown some youthful judgment or bad judgment, as a young person may do from time to time. Suggesting also, again, talking a little bit more, going to that foreseeability that we talked about.
Absolutely. I think that the comments served 2 purposes. Obviously, the dad seemed more upset and indicated that the only thing that the son had done wrong was to go places that he had not anticipated and had not sanctioned. And then there's the indication that you can't keep yourself out of trouble. So this kid, who dad himself says can't keep himself out of trouble, is the same one that dad allowed to take the car out. So that's foreseeability, that's anticipation, that's reckless in and of itself. I also thought that the cross was interesting because it seems that that attorney accidentally elicited some bad character evidence that it serves no purpose, certainly for the defense, except to make their client look bad. So that was a bit of an accident when they elicited that that the dad did not seem distraught and was only angry.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, goes to that old adage, don't ask questions you don't know the answers to, because he could not have known the answer to that question before asking it if he knew that that was going to be the answer, because it was, I agree, very devastating, and it did in fact stand out. And Sonny, finally, I think the other thing that this witness provides is the emotion of the situation. I mean, you saw the video, but she gives you that firsthand account of what was happening there, what she saw, and just her still visceral response to talking about it, I think was also very important for this jury to see.
I think you're absolutely on point with that, because the crash is devastating, the visual of it. But this witness brought the emotion, the anger, the fear, the gravity of the weight of what she heard present, and she is still reliving this. This is a visual, but it is a very soul attached response from her. She could feel all of this. She's very upset with the mother, you could tell by her reaction and what she kept focused on. This was a damning testimony for the defense team, and they have got to figure out how to come back from this very clear and present, situation that was happening in the moment.
Yeah, I don't know how they come back from this, quite frankly. And you know what just reminds me, and it reminds all of us, that these types of crimes, there are the victims that are involved in the crash, but the victims, it just spreads out wide. All the people who've witnessed it had to deal with it. Even the folks at the hospital had to deal with it. They are all victims as well, because these things just do not go away. They stick with us. All right, stand by, folks. Coming up, we're going to have emotional testimony from the man who survived that deadly crash, but tragically lost his wife and 3 children.
How many people were in that vehicle?
Me and my wife. And my 3 grandchildren.
Plus, defense attorneys for suspected United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione is now claiming that the Attorney General's decision to seek the death penalty is tainted by conflict of interest. We'll have a closer look at the details after the break, so please stay with us. Checking in now on Manhattan, where Luigi Mangione's defense team is claiming that the United States Attorney General's decision to seek the death penalty is tainted by conflict of interest. Mangione's lawyers say that AG Pam Bondi's decision was influenced by her history as a lobbyist at a firm that represented United Healthcare's parent company, Ballard Partners. Mangione's defense team calls this a, quote, profound conflict of interest. In court filings, his lawyers wrote in part that Bondi has violated the rules of the court and Department of Justice procedures, and that Bondi took unusually personal and prejudicial actions to ensure that the Mangione case was the first death-eligible case of the new administration. Mangione's lawyers have indicated that they want to investigate Bondi's ties to Ballard and the firm's relationship with the United Health Group, and will ask for various materials, including details of Bondi's compensation from the firm. Mangione's next court appearance is scheduled for January 9th in federal court, and we will, of course, continue to follow this developing story and update you as we learn more. I want to quickly bring back in my guests to discuss this with us, trial consultant Sonny Slaughter and trial attorney Mackenzie Joy Brennan. Mackenzie, I'll start with you. What do you make of the claims by the defense here that there is, in fact, a conflict of interest? Because I would imagine, in addition to trying to, deal with his guilt or innocence, getting the death penalty off the table is really one of the biggest jobs they're facing.
Oh, absolutely. And you have the federal trial and the state trial kind of racing against each other to see who gets there first. Obviously, the federal is the only one where the death penalty is on the table. I think that the claims that they're making here are significant. I think that the relief of taking the death penalty off the table is a bit more of a stretch. In terms of the actual conflict of interest, there is this potential continued profit-sharing arrangement between Bondi and this firm. She is already embattled because of her public statements versus, actions to follow through right now with the Epstein files. I believe that an investigation into that was just launched as of this morning, and their compliance with that. And, She has made public statements about wanting to bring the hammer down on Mangione himself. That being said, as the prosecution has said, pretrial publicity alone is not a defect that takes these sort of things off the table. So I could see an investigation happening. I think that it's more of a stretch when it comes to taking the death penalty off the table as a remedy.
Yeah, Sonny, quickly, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, and I couldn't agree more with Mackenzie. The idea that there may be some conflict here sounds like there might be. But again, even if they get her removed, I don't think the decision for the death penalty is going to be affected, because I'm sure whoever takes her place is going to go down that same path.
I'll be quick. Mackenzie, I absolutely agree with you. And I'll just say there is a reason why the top folks should not be talking about any cases at all, at any time. We keep seeing this happen. The right to remain silent should exist as it had been for DOJ for decades, and that is what should be happening. Let the law enforcement folks do what they do. Let the prosecution remain silent until they have enough evidence to put the death penalty on the table. Everybody should just stop talking at all about any of the cases. Stop speaking.
Fair enough. I hope they heard you there, Sonny. I hope they heard you. All right, stand by. We're going to get back into court now in Florida. 69-year-old Richard Ferguson faces 4 counts of manslaughter for a deadly car crash, but Ferguson wasn't even in the car. He certainly wasn't driving. Prosecutors say that Ferguson allowed his unlicensed 15-year-old son to drive his car, ultimately leading to a deadly crash. On the stand now is one of the crash survivors. His name is Angel Hernandez, and it's truly emotional stuff. His wife and 3 grandchildren all died in the crash.